This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
What's up, Lemmies?
And we are back for another edition of the Onside Kick right here on Most Valuable Podcast, where we talk about the biggest news, the biggest stories, basically anything we want to from the NFL. And Mark, we had another great week. We had Patrick Mahomes fans hitting me up saying that I'm wrong about Patrick Mahomes. You haven't heard anything from Sam Darnold fans in a while. You're kind of getting a little lonely since they don't tweet at you anymore.
Well, if they start doing good again, then they'll come out and remind me that I apparently talk trash.
We also had the last of the Fitzmagic get all used up, as he is done, and Jameis Winston is now the starter again in Tampa, as they will enter the bye with Winston being the starter. But before we get into what we're going to talk about today, jam-packed show, going to be giving you some housekeeping. First off, check out patreon.com to help support the channel. You can join a podcast if you join us at the $10 tier. You can also buy yourself an MVP t-shirt and help support the channel. You can get that down below or at mostvaluablepodcast.com, where you can get your MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, make sure to check out us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. If you could, please give us a 5-star rating and let us know why you like listening to the podcast each and every week. But Mark, we're talking about the Bengals today, not the Bungles, the Bengals, because they are 3-1 on the year. We're going to talk about their chances of winning their division. We're then going to shift over to the NFC South and talk about if the Vikings or Packers should be worried about da Bears. And then we will look at the AFC South. Are the Titans contenders or pretenders before making our picks for this week? And Mark, I will start with you. The Bengals, they are 3-1. They have beaten the likes of the Colts, the Baltimore Ravens, the Atlanta Falcons. They've lost to the Carolina Panthers. Andy Dalton has looked good this year, 11 touchdowns on the season, over 1,000 yards already through 4 games. And he only has, I believe, not one interception. He has 3 interceptions. No, let me pull up 6 interceptions on the year.
It's quite a bit more than 1.
Yeah. Well, I saw 1. I was like, no, that was for the game. Then I saw 3, and I was like, nope, that's fumbles from 2011. And then I scrolled down, and it was 6 on the year. But I will ask you, just plain and simple, to start things off, are the Bengals going to win the NFC North this year?
No, they're not going to win the NFC North. I think they'll compete for the wild card, but I still stand strong in saying that Baltimore is the team that's going to win this division this year. And Pittsburgh, I assume, will turn their misfortunes around at some point.
Well, when Le'Veon comes back week 8.
Yeah, well, if they don't trade him, because they're actively trying at this point. But, here's the thing that I like. The Cincinnati Bengals are scoring a lot of points. Andy Dalton's having a great job. AJ Green is here and making a name for himself, as he usually does. Joe Mixon is doing fine, but not great. This run game started off like it's going to be amazing. And I say Joe Mixon, I mean the running game in its entirety. But they looked really great. Joe Mixon was looking fine, looking really great early on, and making a lot of fantasy owners pretty happy. This run game is not doing what it needs to do anymore. Defensively, though, this is what I'm concerned about for the team. It's just that defense. It's nothing spectacular. It's a below-average defense. They know how to get interceptions, but that's really the only area where this defense is shining right now. And you compare the two teams, the Ravens and the Bengals, and points for, they're right in the same area, right in the ballpark of each other. The Baltimore Ravens are giving up, it's less than half, but it's nearly half the amount of points that the Cincinnati Bengals are. And sure, there's something to that because they played the Bills for one of those games, and that's a big deal.
And that was the Nathan Peterman, oh, wait, no, we're going to play Josh Allen game.
Exactly. So, there is something that needs to be said for that. But with that being said, the defense still scares me a little bit for Cincinnati for the long-term success. That's why I don't put them in the division winner, put them more in that wild card spot where, 9 wins can get you into the wild card.
And that's exactly why, for me, I'm in the same boat. Now, I am going to backpedal a little bit. The 4 wins that I thought that the Bengals would
Still
get,
technically possible.
Still technically possible, but it looks like they should be able to get more than that many wins in this season, as they are now a third of the way to that 4-win total. I just look at this. Like, first off, I look at who the Bengals have played thus far. The Colts haven't been that great of a team, so I look at that and go, okay, that was the game wasn't easy. Yeah, the Colts led in it, but you played an easy team that's not really one of the world beaters. I'll give you credit. Thursday night, you came out at home, balled out against the Ravens to get that win over a quality divisional opponent. But then you look at it, and it's like, all right, Carolina beat you by 10. You almost lost to Atlanta in Atlanta. You needed a late touchdown from Andy Dalton. And I know what people are going to say. Well, Ricky, there's times where in any game you might need a late touchdown to win a game. We did that last year to the Ravens, and that's why they didn't make the playoffs. True, but this team is 1 or 2 bounces away from being 2-2, maybe even 1-3 to start the year. So, like, yes, you're 3-1. Nobody can take that away from you, but you're not in as strong of a foundation that you think your house is built on. And these next 4 games, even 5 games, I'm going to say, are going to be the test for the Bengals. Miami coming up this week. Yeah, that Miami team didn't look well this week, but that was against the Patriots. We'll see against the non-Patriot team if they will go back to the Dolphin team that they were in the first 4 weeks. Pittsburgh, yeah, they're struggling, but if this Pittsburgh offense can turn it on,
and it's a divisional game.
They can turn it on. Plus, it's a divisional game, so they can play up for it. Then you go into KC and you play the one quarterback that everyone is absolutely bananas about in Patrick Mahomes. Ooh, look at that. He threw it with his left hand. It was a nice pass. But we're freaking out that he threw it with his left hand. And then you got the Buccaneers, maybe not as quality of an opponent that I would have said at the beginning of the year because they were hot in the first 3 weeks. We'll see at that point how they look with Jameis Winston. And then after the bye, you get the Saints and the Ravens again, this time in Baltimore. This stretch coming up is going to be a tougher stretch than you've seen in the first 4 games, to where this is now the real test for the Bengals if they're going to be a divisional winner, a wild card team, or not even a playoff team at all.
Yeah, I agree with you when you say they could be a 2-2 team right now. Realistically, I don't think 1-3 would have been an option for them. But the thing comes down to this. They're averaging like 31 points a game. They are in shootouts, and that's fantastic. But as soon as that offense gets slowed down, that becomes difficult because your defense is not able to stop other teams so much. They're at least struggling with it. And I guess you can say, like, well, you've, kept the Colts and the Ravens to 23 points. But I don't think that's anything that's super exciting. It only works out for you because your offense had been so hot. But that's the thing. I think that can lead you to an 8-8, 9-7 type of season. It's just going to be kind of difficult when you're constantly in shootouts because you look at Mahomes, you look at Drew Brees, you're going up against Joe Flacco again. You've got all these teams that can go out there and score. Even the Browns are looking like they can score nowadays.
I mean, even the Steelers, you might look at that and some people may say, well, guys, the Steeler defense hasn't been that good. Our offense can score a ton of points. But let's be honest, Big Ben can do the same. It was a shootout between them and the Buccaneers, and the Steelers ended up winning that game.
And that's the thing for the Cincinnati Bengals. They have to kind of win this shootout. And the fear is if it becomes a little one-dimensional because the running game's not terrible or anything like that, but it's just a below-average running game. Good passing offense, not great defense unless it comes to some interceptions. So it's kind of it's scary for the long term for the Bengals.
Which run game are you more worried about, the Bengals or the Ravens? Because right now I look at it, the leading rusher for the Bengals, Joe Mixon, 179 yards. Giovanni Bernard is right behind him with 155. Then you got the Ravens. Alex Collins is the bell cow. He's only got 45 attempts, 158 yards, and only 2 touchdowns this year, where you have your second leading rusher is Lamar Action Jackson with 62 yards, has half the amount of carries as Javaris Allen, has just as many yards, and he's a quarterback, not even your main quarterback, your backup quarterback, and he's not even a running back. Which rushing attack are you more worried about, Ravens or Bengals?
Well, I mean, the reason I'm not going to be scared of the Bengals is because Joe Mixon is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, is a big deal, obviously, when you don't have that lead guy that you can kind of count on. He's been out for 2 weeks, I think, now.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of desperately need him to come back. So the thing I'm going to be more scared of is, even though it's by committee, I'm going to be a little bit more scared of the Ravens, I guess. But honestly, these two running games are pretty much neck and neck in my eyes. I don't really think there's that different between the two. I might give a little bit of an edge to the Ravens, but they're pretty much right on top of each other.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing also that I'm going to bring up is I brought up the schedule for the Bengals. The Ravens one is not super easy as well. I mean, they're going, after being in Pittsburgh, getting the win on Sunday Night Football, they're going to be at Cleveland, which you said the Browns look like they can ball out now with Baker Money Mayfield being their quarterback. Tennessee has looked good. We're going to look at them later in the podcast. The Saints, Drew Brees in that team, looks very good. Carolina is a winning team right now. Pittsburgh obviously will be looking for revenge in Baltimore on November 4th. Which team do you think? Because I basically put up the same stretch of games for each one. Which one do you think will be better by, let's say, the next meeting, week 11? Because I can't help but look at it and go, although some of the teams are technically winning teams, I technically like the Ravens better. I like them better against the Browns. I like them better against the Titans. I think they can beat Carolina, although Carolina is a winning team, and they proved to me in Pittsburgh that they can beat this Big Ben team. Now, that Big Ben team will have Le'Veon Bell maybe for that Week 9 game. I have more confidence in the Ravens winning games than I do the Bengals winning a shootout against Pittsburgh, winning a shootout against Patrick Mahomes, beating the Saints, and then maybe even beating the Dolphins, although that one is a coin flip, and I'm not going to say that there's no way the Bengals can't beat the Dolphins.
Yeah, for me, I'm standing by what I said. I mean, it's the Baltimore Ravens, I think, are going to win the division. Therefore, I think they're going to be the better team when these two face each other again. And it comes down to they've got a better defense. Their passing game, even though both are very, very good passing games, I give a little bit of an edge to the Baltimore Ravens at the moment. Doesn't mean that's what it's going to be at the end of the season, but at the moment I give them a little bit of an edge to their running game at the moment too. So offensively, they're pretty neck and neck. It's that defense where one team has a much better defense at the moment than the other one does. Things could fall apart for the Ravens, sure, but right now I just like their defense so much more. And people might want to argue there's a little skew to that because of the Buffalo Bills, but hey, we've seen some rookies.
They played the game.
Yeah, they played the games, the opponents they had, and we've seen rookies come in and do great things. And, it's very possible that Josh Allen could have been one of those rookies who came in there and did great things.
I mean, he was a guy that played well against the Vikings, and how great do we talk about the Viking defense? Last thing I'll ask you is with the Bengals, at the end of the year, look into your crystal ball, divisional winner, wild card team, miss the playoffs. Which one are you going with?
I can see them as a wild card team, which is a little bit more than I thought at the start of the season.
So I think you had them, 7 wins?
I think 7 wins. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I thought I had them at 6 or 7 wins. And I think they can be a wild card team with the maybe 9 wins. Which honestly, for some down years that the Bengals have had, that's good. Getting back into the playoffs again, that's something to be excited about. That's something to be happy about. Hopefully Marvin Lewis can actually coach the team to a victory this time because they kind of need it.
You did have them at 7. You had the Ravens winning the division, 11 wins. Mm-hmm. The Steelers behind them at 10 wins.
Which I think I might be off on that Steelers one right now.
And then you had both the Bengals and the Browns at 7 and 9.
Yeah. Cool.
Whereas mine were vastly different.
I'm looking actually pretty decent right now for the AFC North.
You know, mine are vastly different. I'm farther off on the Steelers. I said 12 and 4. 8 and 8 for the Ravens, which could be off. 4 and 12 for the Browns, and I actually had 3 and 13. So the Bengals have met the win mark that I thought they were going to do. They're just going to lose every other game, and I'll be
it's
correct
possible
after this point. But for me, like, I think this team is not going to be the North Division champion at the end. I think the Ravens will come back, will win the division at the end. Could the Bengals be a playoff team? Yes. But in order to do that, you're going to have to, I'm going to give you some key games that you're going to have to win. You're going to have to win this week against Miami. You're going to have to own the tiebreaker against the Miami Dolphins. You're going to have to win week 13 against the Denver Broncos. Hell, you're even going to have to win week 14 against the LA Chargers, because the way I'm looking at it right now is if you're going to be a wild card team, the teams that you are going to be competing against at the end of the year, the Titans could be one of them, although we'll talk about later in the podcast if they're a contender or pretender. The Dolphins could be a team. You play them this season. And then, like I said, the Broncos and Chargers, mainly because looking at what we've seen from the Chiefs and with Patrick Mahomes, maybe the Chiefs are going to run away with this division, and then that means the Chargers and Broncos are fighting for a wild card spot and not going to be able to get a division spot. And you play 3 of those 4 teams on your schedule this year. If you win games against them, then you'll own the tiebreaker over them. I like the Raiders, you can kind of say, but 1 and 3, I don't think the Ravens are going to be anywhere near anything for the wild card. Any final thoughts before we move over from the AFC North into the NFC North?
No, not necessarily. You meant to say Raiders besides Ravens just before someone yells at you.
Yeah, I meant Oakland Raiders. I said Ravens. Did I say Ravens numerous times during that?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oakland Raiders, that's what I meant. They are 1 and 3. The Ravens are definitely not 1 and 3. They are 3 and 1. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in that comment section. Bengal fans, tell us why we're wrong. Like, that's the thing I've noticed about these individual ones. Like for the Dolphins last week, we didn't bash the Dolphins, I don't think. But then it's like, you give us, it's basically a Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, that's right.
Thing.
I get no respect.
No respect. But tell us what you guys think down below. Why will you win the division? Why are we wrong for going with the Ravens? And then Ravens fans, if you're listening, start a little fun down there in the comment section. Start a little comment, a little discussion, as we like to call it, of why you will win the division. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.